Welcome. Today I want to talk a little bit about Benable. For Zazzle creators has recently had a huge influx of users after someone posted on the official Zazzle forums, and now a whole bunch of us are there and following each other and liking each other's things. And a couple of creators I really like are there as well, and they have made their own videos about Benable that talk specifically about kind of what it is, how it works, how to use it. And Benable has their own YouTube as well. They don't have a ton of videos, but they definitely have what you need to get started and to kind of know how things work. So that's not what this video is going to be about. This video is going to be about the number one benefit that I have gotten in these first couple of months as a creator and list maker on Benable. And it's not money. So if you're here to learn about making a bunch of money, this is not going to be the video that you want, because that's not what I'm going to talk about. I do want to give you a little bit of my background before I start to have some context, because I think it really influences what I've learned and what I am going to say is the number one benefit for Benable today. So the first thing I want to say is, prior to print on demand and my work as a nature photographer and a designer, I was a teacher, a language arts teacher for almost 20 years. And I think my takeaway that I'm going to share with you is very much something that a teacher would say. So that's a little bit of a teaser, maybe, of where I'm going with this. So if you want to get your gears turning and see if you can figure it out before I get there. The second thing I want to share is, a couple of years ago, I was diagnosed with ADHD. And, it's happening more frequently, especially a lot of older women are getting diagnosed with this. And I share it today because, one, I think it's helped me understand myself a little bit better. And two, I think it also influences my takeaway from my experience with Benable. So there's hint two, perhaps. The third thing is, I started my POD journey in kind of spring of 2022. So it's been about 3 years now. I've had some success. I've made some money online, but I am certainly not paying the mortgage or anything like that with my creations or with my business. And that's okay. I don't need to do that right now, even though it would help. It would be lovely. That's not where I'm coming from. And so 2025 has hit hard for that reason. I think it's hit higher sellers because they do depend on that and have come to rely on that money, and the sudden drop of that has been very difficult. But for me, who was already not making very much and now is really not making much on POD, especially since the start of this year, my journey has definitely looked a little different, and I've backed off of creating quite a bit. So I definitely think that's another piece of what I think is the biggest benefit of Benable. So my big benefit from Benable has been, it informs me as a business owner and as a creative. And it does that in a couple of ways. I get a wider view of what's out there. And, I've done keyword research and I've looked up what's out there before, but looking at it from okay, what are the keywords? What are this kind of thing? And looking at it from the perspective of me as an affiliate marketer, I want to find the thing that's the best, that's the most likely to sell. And then thinking about, okay, why is it the most likely to sell? And that's been a more authentic experience for me. I need, I think intellectually get the idea, the advice that everybody says to think like a shopper. But thinking in this way, where I'm trying to make this sale, is definitely working for me better. I'm not looking at the keywords. I'm not looking at the titles. I'm not looking at any of that stuff. What I'm actually looking at is, what are the products that pop out to me? So, one, the cover has to look decent, but two, what is the actual thing? And part of what I've looked at is, what's the quality? What's the uniqueness? And then if some things are similar, what's the price comparison? If it's different, are their reviews pretty similar, or does one get a lot higher reviews than the other ones? This is something I really like about Etsy. They do way better at showing us those kind of statistics than most sites, really. So as a shopper, I'm thinking of that. And, as an affiliate who wants to sell to the shopper that's visiting my list, I'm thinking like that. I want to put on my Benable list the things I think are most likely to sell. When they go to that listing that I have linked them to, they're going to see, oh yeah, this is quality. It's got great reviews. It's, XYZ thing. And then I need to imitate that as a creator. I need to be creating those kinds of entries. And we know what some of that looks like, right? We know it's the good product photos. We know it's the great description that like reels them in. Reviews are a little harder on Zazzle just because of the way Zazzle does reviews. It's very bizarre. We don't really have control over that. But those other things we do. And I have some thoughts about reviews, but that's for another video. The other thing it's really helped with for me is I'm noticing trends more, which again, you kind of get in a general sense, like if you write in, birdwatcher guests and you look, you kind of say like, oh, there's a whole bunch of these. But now, thinking a little more competitively, I'm like, I don't have that in my store. And that's been a big like wake up call of seeing, I feel like with 800 plus products, I've always felt like that's a lot of products. I know there are people that have thousands and thousands in their store and things like that, but I've always felt like 800 is pretty good. But I have 800 in a lot of different little nature niches. There's a lot I am missing. And even within my own, I noticed this in the winter too, when I was creating a calendar. There were a lot of photos I was pulling to put in my calendar to fill it up because I needed like 40 something photos for this calendar. Like, why am I not selling products with these photos? And just seeing others' work has just been a breath of fresh air. I think I need to spend more time just enjoying what other people are creating. And, if I see something, I'm like, I think I could do that, and I'm not going to just rip it off and do the exact same thing. Maybe I use a similar phrase, but I'm, designing it differently. I'm using my own photography. Maybe I see a technique that someone's like, oh, wow, I really like their style of how all their designs kind of have this, ethereal like filter or something. I don't know, whatever it is. It's like, maybe I should try that. That would be fun. I wouldn't mind trying that as a creative. Benable forces me to look at a lot of stuff, to look at it critically, and to come out with a succinct, organized list that has a short note of why I think it's great. That's a really good exercise, and that's a very good like teacher description to call it an exercise. It's a really good exercise. Basically Benable is teaching me. I'm a learner on Benable, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I think that's why there's the teacher connection that I want to make there. The authenticity links a lot to my ADHD profile, and the fact that it does like give me a real reason to be doing stuff, to hyper focus and really dig in and concisely streamline. This is why it's great. Internalizes it for me a bit because I'm writing it out, and also helps sell the product. So it's definitely a win-win from that regard. So that's why I think any creative could benefit from Benable. Are you going to make a ton of money there? I'm certainly not rolling in dough. I don't make a ton on POD either. So if I added my POD earnings, I have a couple things on Redbubble, and then I have some Zazzle stuff that's sold. And then I compare that to the Benable affiliate earnings I've made in the 2 months since I've been there, I make this about the same between the two. So I'm definitely making some money there. It's not enough to pay a mortgage. I could talk more in another video. If you're interested in knowing what that is, I will share the numbers with you. But I didn't want to make this one about money or numbers because it's not a lot and I don't want to make false promises. I do have some observations about ways I think people are using Benable really well and what I want to do more of and what I've observed as well. So if you're interested in that, I'd love for you to comment below. I hope you have a great day.